This is CORDIScovery. Hello and welcome to this episode of CORDIScovery with me, Abigail Acton. Melted cheese over a burger? Is your stomach rumbling? How about making that cheese from plant protein? And maybe the burger is from a cow reared on insect-based feed. Or perhaps it's made of insects themselves. A growing global population, socio-demographic change, climate change, there's an increased pressure on the world's resources to provide not only more, but different types of food. We need to develop ways to produce more existing sources of protein more efficiently. Animal-based protein has an important role to play as part of a sustainable diet and as a contributor to food security. But now is the time for alternative sources for direct human consumption and animal feed to increase their market share. So in this episode, we're going to be looking at how to increase the production and market uptake of complementary proteins. Plant-based, insect, and other sources. We're considering safety, marketing challenges, and cutting-edge approaches to rearing. Caramelized crispy grasshoppers, anyone? Listen on. Talking us through the twists and turns of getting such innovative products onto a very traditional market are three researchers, all of whom have received support from EU funding. Emanuele Zannini has a PhD in applied biomolecular science and is now a senior research coordinator at the School of Food and Nutritional Sciences, University College Cork. He is particularly interested in developing plant-based food options to reduce the emissions related to animal rearing and farming. Welcome, Emanuele.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for the invitation.
Tuen Veldkamp is a senior researcher in animal nutrition at Wageningen University and Research, WR, and specialized in insects. He is especially interested in testing and demonstrating innovative rearing methods to help the development of a smoothly functioning, commercially viable European insect supply chain. Welcome, Tuen.
Thank you very much for inviting me and happy to be here.
Super. Erland Sild is the founder of the deep tech company Bugbox, which has developed an industrial and scalable technology for sustainable protein production from crickets, providing competitive production costs and increasing efficiency using AI. Welcome, Erland.
Hello, everyone.
Emanuele, I'm going to turn to you first. Smart Protein aimed to industrially validate and demonstrate how EU-produced protein-rich plants and microbial biomass proteins from things like edible fungi can be used to complement traditional sources. So what do you feel is one of the key reasons that the public is being a little slow to embrace alternative protein sources?
Well, definitely the lack of a sensory attribute of the plant-based products. This is because we are enabled to mimic the same food experience that consumers is expecting while consuming Parmesan steaks or salmon fillet. And this is a critical aspect to make sure that basically the consumers will really embrace and include more alternative proteins in their diet.
Right. And so did the project consider some means of actually improving the sensory experience of plant-based foods when you were looking at how to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, the project actually did much more. Because one aspect is to secure that the product tastes good, looks good, smells good, also able to provide the same, let's say, biting experience, chewing experience.
Mouthfeel, I think it's called.
Yes, absolutely. And also the same flavor evolutions while you are chewing the products, And besides this, also, we were working in more systemic approach. So securing where those raw materials coming from. So interacting with farmers, understanding also their needs, how we can actually combine their needs and also the needs to produce more plant protein, particularly from legumes. Also, we were discussing with the food industry, in particular ingredients company, food producers, also making sure that the products that we were developing are much healthier and nutritious than the regular counterpart, because that's also one of the key aspects that basically the meat lovers pointed out.
Yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. Can you give me some ideas of what sources you were looking at? So what are we talking about being used here?
Well, basically, we were using different legumes protein, like chickpea, faba bean, lentils. Also, we were introducing European quinoa productions. But besides this, also, we were trying to, let's say, find the second life for side streams, in particular coming from pasta producers, from bread crust, and also from brewing side streams.
And how did you go about doing that?
Oh, very fantastic. Because actually,
tell us more.
Well, we were basically trying to improve the nutritional property and also the biological value by fermenting those side streams with food-grade fungi. The fungi normally you're having in when you are consuming camembert, or when you are consuming tempeh, for example. Using those fungi, we were actually able to improve the nitrogen content, so the protein content, and also reducing some of the natural anti-nutrients that normally you find when you are consuming plant-based products.
So when we say side streams, where were these materials coming from?
Well, it was coming from pasta industry, pasta leftover, or a bread company producing, let's say, sandwich bread. So basically, the bread crust was actually removed, but they are still containing high quality nutrients that basically can be securely, upcycled. So, and to find a second life and being reintroduced in the food system. This was very important.
So, yeah, no, it is important. So this is great because you're cutting down waste and you're finding a kind of more efficient way of producing food. But I'm a little confused about the notion of what you do next. So you've got your carbohydrate sources. You're encouraging the growth of these food grade fungi, the sort that we have already on camembert that we're consuming happily already. And then what do you do with these fungi? Well,
then at the end, we're not separating fungi with side streams, all come together. And then we are producing ingredients.
Okay.
And then will be introduced, we are being functionalized. What does it mean? So making sure that basically the protein stretch and mimic let's say the corder, or mimic the meat structure in developing or reconstructing the end products.
Okay, great. So this food material, these foods, are then adapted and processed to become substitutes for meat-based industries. Yeah,
absolutely. For the meat industry, but also, for example, one of the fungi were actually providing very garlic flavor.
Oh, great.
So we were actually using for meatballs analogs.
Oh, right. Excellent. So, in fact, also as an added ingredient. So it's like literally a complementary protein, part meat, but part not meat. Right. It's very interesting. Thank you. And now you said something about trying to, talk with farmers, trying to bridge the gap between the production and the marketing and so on. Did you yourself go out and talk with anybody? Did you have experience with meeting anybody or talking to anybody?
Oh, definitely.
Go on, tell us some stories. How did it go? Were people open to these ideas?
Well, it was very, let's say, inspiring, because most of the times you are underestimate which are the challenges they are facing, because they are dealing with several threats, with environment, with climate change, with the cost of the products they are using. So, it was very interesting to see basically how we could actually support them in diversifying their business model, because most of the time they were producing wheat over wheat or sunflower oil. And we actually introduced the legumes as well to, let's say, improve the crop rotation, to improve the soil fertility. Indeed, actually, with the farmers that was including our study, they were actually implementing regenerative agriculture farming. So basically able to produce more, better, but requesting less from the soil.
Fantastic. So in fact, there's also an environmental impact right at the very initial stage of this in the actual growth patterns. There's a positive environmental impact. The environment benefits from a greater crop rotation and, as you say, less demands on the soil.
Yes, actually it was very important for us to make sure and to prove that what we were doing was sustainable from an environmental perspective, from also economic perspective, because the food industry was actually pointed out how cost it would be now if we want to industrialize these products. So we did a business analysis to make sure that what we were promising, it was very convincing, but also basically able to reduce the time to market that basically normally companies are struggling with. So definitely we were, it was a team effort, and the things I think I'm very proud of it, that we just removed the silo thinking approach.
When you say the silo thinking approach, what are you talking about, and how is it better now?
Well, basically, the food industry doesn't think what is the best just for them, but what is the best in a holistic approach. So understanding that if we are performing something that is better for everybody, is also better for myself.
Great. And also, I presume, communication channels.
Absolutely.
So easier for farmers to talk to the people further down the line for the production and so on and so on.
Yes.
Can you give us an example of, it was fantastic listening to you talking about the edible fungi. Can you give us some examples now of what you mean? For example, if I think of chickpeas, what can be done with chickpeas in a way that I hadn't thought of before?
Well, with the chickpeas, actually, we were actually able to produce a semi-hard cheese, because basically we were actually using the starch content to actually produce a proper structure in rheology. And also, chickpea also has a good fat content. And also, we know in a cheese how fat component is very important to provide, a unique flavor and during ripening. And actually, we were actually able to mimic, those flavor revolutions, also using specific fungi, also edible fungi and lactic acid bacteria.
I think this is wonderful, and I would love to try some of this. Is it available on supermarket shelves or shop shelves near me, or is this still something that's a sort of prototype concept?
Well, the project basically was supporting the company at reaching the pre-commercial stage. So now it's up to the company to, let's say, to
actually market.
Yes, to move on the founder and to, let's say, do the last mile.
Yeah. You've enabled them and facilitated them to get this far.
But that was the main goal of this project, to support them, to provide knowledge, to provide strategies, and to, let's say, succeed in bringing those products to the market.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Tuen.
Yeah, the Europeans are now actively reducing their meat consumption for a variety of reasons, so including health, environmental or animal welfare factors. Another EU project is also focusing on the dietary shift. Could you elaborate what the EU could do to support this shift? You can think of labeling, marketing, standards.
One thing I think is it actually is important, and actually we wrote down in our policy brief that we provide to the EU. It was public food procurement, because the EU is actually feeding over 70 million of students, and definitely this is what could be a good starting point in using public money to, let's say, educate young generations and how we should interact in a better way with what we are eating in our plate.
Well, that's fantastic, because then, as you say, you're reaching them young and opening minds to innovative concepts, which might be quite difficult to do with some sectors of the public. Excellent. Thank you very much. Good question, Tuen. In fact, I'm going to turn to you now. So, Sustainable Insect Chain wanted to contribute to novel protein provision for feed and food in Europe by overcoming the remaining barriers for increasing the economic viability of the insect value chain and opening up markets. So, if we now turn to insects as a potential source of food and animal feed, what is the benefit of using them, please, Tuen? Why are we going to do this?
Yeah, that's interesting. I consider insects as the most promising alternative source of protein available in Europe to enter the feed and food market. Insects contribute to the sustainability of the food chain, as they are, in my opinion, the missing link that can close product life cycle loops.
What do you mean by closing product life cycle loops?
If you are looking into the food chain, a lot of bio-waste is lost, cannot be used in the food chain. And by use of insects, you can reuse this bio-waste to grow the insects and use the insects again into the food chain.
Right. Yeah, no, that's excellent, obviously. And so what insects can be raised and in which way can they be used?
Yeah, the different insects can be raised. For example, black shoulder fly and another species is mealworm, which can be used for animal feed. They are most used for animal feed.
I use them to feed my blackbirds in the garden.
Yes, they are really also used in private gardens, etc. But mealworms also can be used for human food, like crickets and grasshoppers. So there is a little bit of shift between the different species for use in human food or in animal feed.
Okay, this is wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, it seems logical, very logical, but can you tell us what's holding us back? Because I get the sense that this is not as widespread on our shelves as it could be. What's holding us back?
Yeah, currently what's holding us back is that the insects can only be fed with remainders from vegetal origin, which are currently also allowed to feed directly to pig and poultry. And this is because of safety issues. So only certified substrates can be used to grow the insects. And this is really hampering further development. So a lot of studies are currently ongoing to test the safety of novel substrates which you can use to grow the insects.
Okay.
And with substrates, I mean the different bio-waste sources in combination.
Super. Okay, so one thing that's a bit of a bottleneck to the furthering of this is the manner in which the insects are reared, the food upon which they're reared. But what about public acceptance of this concept? Did your project work at all on identifying where the public is on this idea?
Yeah, we for applications in human food, we also tested consumer preferences for different types of products. In the project, 6 different insect products were developed, and they were also subjected to consumer panels for testing these for tastiness, but also the acceptance in mind, because insects are quite different on the menu in European areas. I can say in Asia it's quite common to eat insects. Therefore, in this project we decided to include insect ingredients, so the protein and oil fractions, into regular dinner meals.
So that's quite interesting. That's a little bit like the edible yeasts being added to increase flavor and things. So we really are talking complementary proteins here. So products produced from insect rearing going into meat products, or give me some idea of the products that you were actually creating here. I'm trying to guess it. Just tell me.
Yeah, you can think of, for example, bread. You can use insects as an ingredient in bread, in falafel, in pasta. So these are some examples. We also produce meatballs as an alternative for meat consumption. So this are really new developments by which we have tried to increase the acceptability of insect products on the European dish.
And what was the reaction of your panel? How did that go? How did the testing process go?
Yeah, the responses of the consumers, it was quite good and above our expectations. So if you include the products in the dinners, then it went fine. And also we tested the acceptability for insect fat animal products, because this is another element which we studied in the project. And yeah, for Europe, we think both are well accepted by European consumers.
Super, excellent. Let's talk about animal feed, because that is indeed another pathway. Can you tell me a little bit about what the benefit of using insects as a basis for animal feed would be, for example, to the environment? Well, what does that save? How does that help?
Yeah, the main focus of using insects in animal feed is to try to make your diet composition more regional. So not importing, for example, soybeans from Latin America or fish meal. There is a big discussion on overfishing of oceans. So if you can exchange these traditional sources in animal feed by insect products, then you have a lot of benefits on sustainability. For example, for the environment, insects can be reared on bio-waste sources. And as I already told, this is a real circular element. You can close the cycles, and by this, you can really have benefit into animal feed, making the circle complete, bringing it back into the food chain.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So it's sourced locally. It's using waste streams that otherwise maybe would be disposed of in a way that's perhaps less environmentally friendly. Yeah, no, it's a great idea. Okay, superb. So can I just ask you now, I know it's not the only way. We've been talking about animal feed and human food. It's not the only way insects could be used. So can you think, if we were to look into the future, how else could the product of insect rearing be used?
Yeah, insects can also be used, and that's what we currently see in Asia. Insects can be used also for technical applications, and then you can think of use for transportation fuel.
Biofuel?
Yeah, biofuel, it's the lipid of the black soldier fly. It's really a good energy source also for biofuel, but it's a little bit lower into the cascade. So we really prefer to use the highly nutritious insect oil for animal feed or for human food.
Of course.
And so it's an alternative. And what we see outside of Europe, that insects are also used for biodiesel production if they are fed with substrates that are not completely safe.
Oh, I see. That's great. So when they can't go into any other stream, then why not use them as fuel?
Then you are really see the insects as a kind of processing step to make not that safe substrates usable for example, as an energy source.
Tuen, did your project do anything at all about welfare? I mean, what are we actually doing when we come to think about, because, we're getting constantly informed about just how sentient the animals that we're already farming are. We don't want any horrible surprises down the line about just what the crickets are perceiving around them. So what's happening about animal welfare standards?
Yeah, animal welfare was not involved in the project as a research topic, but recently, insect welfare is very important, as we see also in other livestock sectors, if we think of pigs and poultry, etc. So we are now developing different projects on animal welfare, because first we have to set the tools how to measure welfare of insects. So it's more easy to measure welfare, we think, in pigs and poultry than in insect larvae, for example. So the tools have to be developed, and therefore we would like to start new projects very soon.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much. That was very, very well explained. Much appreciated. Does anyone have any observations or comments to make to Tuen?
I have a question, actually.
Emanuele.
Yes, I was wondering, most of the time consumer constraints are influenced also by political positions. So I was wondering, because in Italy, there is very strong debates, and I can see that most of the time politicians are heavily influencing, the consumer perspective towards a specific topic like this one. So I was wondering if you could comment, or if you have feel the same experience.
Yeah, we know it's really also country dependent, and for me it's clear Italy has, with respect to other European countries, quite a strong culture on food. So you have your own in Italy, your own preferences. So I think we really need, this is for the insect project, and I think also for your project, really important to focus on the perception in each country. And we have also seen in our project, we have quite differences between, for example, Germany or France or Italy. So it's quite important that we choose the right options to go into the market.
Yeah, adapt the process depending on the cultural expectations. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Well, Erland can probably tell us a little bit about that too, because Erland was responsible for something called BugBox, the BugBox project initially. It created software to run a fully automated mass insect rearing reactor. This new technology, which is easily scalable, targets the farmers of edible insects to make farming safer, more efficient, and more cost effective. So talking about cultural acceptance from country to country, as Tuen did very, very interestingly, can I ask you, Erland, you got involved in this because you traveled a lot in different countries around the world. What did the traveling show you? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, that's true. My previous background is actually from shipping industry, and I was really traveling a lot, especially in Southeast Asia and Africa and different countries around the world. And what I noticed was that the high nutrition food is very unevenly distributed in the worldwide. It's not so it's a food deficit, but unevenly. And they started to look how we could produce some alternative ways, more sustainable way, high nutrition food. So, and I finished in the insect industry. So,
right.
Yeah.
You moved from being a seafarer to working out how to make insect farming effective, which is an interesting jump. Did you, I presume you saw the acceptability with which cultures around the world consume insects without thinking about it?
That's true. There is statistics which says that currently over 2 billion people are consuming or having insects as a part of the diet, their daily ratios. But my decision was purely mathematical based and business based, considering not just even the growth of the global population, but the growth of the GDP, which is mainly coming from the Southeast Asia, where people are starting living better. They want to eat better. They want to order ready foods, dining outside, taking more pets. They need all proteins. And reversing those estimated values or estimations in the monetary base into the tons, how much proteins we're actually missing on the market by 2030. That was a pure calculation that we cannot produce it on a traditional way. We need to find some more sustainable ways to produce animal proteins.
Tell us a little bit about what you actually did within the project Bug Box, because we've been talking about encouraging uptake for human and animal feed. So what was the gap that Bug Box tried to resolve, and how did it go about doing so?
Yes, the main gap, what is on the field actually, on the complementary proteins, is the widespread enthusiasm and actually the production efficiency. So you can't be successful or trade on the market with complementary or sustainable proteins when your unit economics doesn't work. You can't just be 3 or 5 times more expensive on the market and expect that you will succeed. Doesn't matter which kind of positive ecological effect do you provide. So unit economics should be the basic, and that's a main gap what Bug Box is solving.
So really, we're talking about here when you say unit economics, it's cost efficiency, basically, right? So if the only way that you can produce them is not on scale, then the price of the product is very expensive, and who's going to want to buy that? I get it. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit what Bug Box actually set out to do then to resolve this gap between the enthusiasm to actually consume this, but the difficulty in production?
Yeah, true. You need to just look into the production-wise and what are the main costs. And as Tuen mentioned already, it is very much one of the highest components is a feed. How can you optimize the feed price? Because feed is almost 30% of the total costs when you farm. And if you don't control the feed, you don't control your costs, and you are not efficient and competitive. And the feed is crucial as well, because the food security or let's say safety starts from the feed, because that's the main reason why we're talking about the insects is a conversion rate. If you, for example, have 10 kilos of the feed, how much do you get return on the live weight? In these metrics, insects are just number one. So none of the existing species cannot beat the insects in this ratio. And another thing which is happening is that people are afraid that with a novel food, they are going to lose the traditional way how the family is gathering on the Saturday evening for a family dinner. Some kind of insects are coming, or plant-based things. Where is our steak? Where is our lamb? Where is our traditional food? But it's not going to happen. It will remain. But we just add some new ingredients to live in a more sustainable way. But if we can eliminate that fear, I think we will eliminate resistance as well.
Perfect. Erland, in the Bug Box project, what did you actually achieve? What did you create?
Yeah, we created fully automated and autonomous rearing environment. We call it rearing reactor, which basically gives us efficiency in the rearing phase. And we also developed software which actually controls totally all the processes, starting from rearing up to the processing, packaging, and that's our IP, basically, what we can say that we achieved during this project.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so was it a prototype? I mean, how many insects did you manage to rear using this facility? How big did you manage to make this?
Yeah, main KPIs for us has been always being the square meter productivity and the cubic meter productivity. What is the production efficiency of the 1 cubic meter of the rearing box, let's say, and what is a square meter productivity of your total investment, what we are investing into the facility. So we achieved really good results, and we can say that we most probably are the most effective and efficient production technology provider in the global wise at the moment.
Okay. And so, I mean, I know that one of the problems facing producers are pathogens. How did your product actually help to reduce the influence of pathogens, to reduce pathogen presence?
Yes, this is a risk what need to be mitigated because pathogens are airborne and widely spread everywhere. And we solved this issue by closing this rearing environment, because we control basically not only what happens inside the rearing reactor, but also in the room where the rearing reactors are located. So in a double wise, the air is cleaned, it's totally clean and sterilized, it's overpressured and so on. It is a risk which need to be mitigated, because when you invest some millions, you don't want to lose it because of the poor risk mitigation.
And so pathogens really can cause that sort of loss. I mean, can't you just go in and clean a facility up if you find that there's something that's impacting on your insects?
No. You need a more deeper answer. No, you can't.
There we go. That's straightforward. So what happens then? You invest millions, you try to grow your insects, something comes in that is killing them. What do you have to do?
You need to build another facility.
Right. You have to shut the whole thing down, do you?
Yes.
Or
you can rear another species which are immune of the pathogens. They just carry them, but they don't die, and you still can operate and to produce. But in EU, it's strictly regulated which species you can rear for a human consumption, and those other species might not apply for those regulations. So it is, you can still export your production to the Asia or some other countries, but yes, that's a huge risk. Not huge, but let's say smart. You need to be considering and acting smartly.
You need to take steps before it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, so what's your project? What's your company doing now? What's BugBox up to now? Because you developed this mass rearing system with the software. My understanding now is that you're getting quite involved in AI. How are you using AI, and what are you up to now?
Yes, now we are in the phase where we're starting to sell our technology worldwide. We have pre-orders, let's say offtake agreements, more than value in 20 million euros already in different places in Singapore, in Australia, in Europe also. And that gives us an opportunity to collect more data, that analyzing the different farms, different locations around the globe, gives us enough data to put into our systems, and the algorithm can work on that, how to constantly improve and make the production processes more efficiently.
Okay, so what does that increasing data tell you, and how does it help you to train your AI?
If you have a farm with 1,000 rearing reactors in one location and 1,000 rearing reactors in another location, you can actually put those 1,000 to operate in a little bit different conditions than another 1,000, and you can get result. And if you can reduce, for example, let's say pure example, rearing temperature minor, let's say less than 1 degree or 0.5 degrees, it actually gives you operational cost saver already if you have a similar results with other reactors. But doing those analyses based on 10 reactors and 10 reactors, then you get some correlations which might be true. So you need a bigger volume data to analyze and repeatedly taking those research or analysis. So.
Okay, that's great. No, super. That explains it very nicely. Thank you. Thanks for the example. Well, that was excellent. Thanks. And so does anyone have any questions or comments to make to Erland, please? Yeah, Tuen.
Yes, Erland, very interesting to hear about the system. You use the system to grow crickets and grasshoppers. So it's based on dry feed. And as you know, for black soldier fly, there is 30% dry matter in the feed. So that's really a wet substrate. Is your equipment suitable to grow also black soldier fly?
No. Our technology is purely adopted and created for Orthoptera species. So dry feed and six-legged. So, yeah. And why we chose that? Because first we had the knowledge. One of our founders is a biologist in that field, a very highly recognized expert. And another one that gives this piece opportunity to our clients to trade on the both markets, on the feed and the food. Yeah, if your unit economics allow you to trade on the feed market as well, so which black soldier farms don't allow. But I like, by the way, black soda approach very much, because taking out the bio waste and making another valuable commodity on the food chain, that's what we actually need. So, yeah.
Thank you. Very clear.
Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Well, listen, I just want to thank you all for sharing your ideas and your time with us today. I think it was just really fascinating. And I like the fact that you're all coming at this from slightly different angles. And I look forward to some of these products being available for me to buy, thanks to your work and the work of others like you. Very, very good. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, follow us on Spotify and Apple and check out the podcast homepage on the Cordis website. Subscribe to make sure the hottest research in the EU-funded science programmes isn't passing you by. And if you're enjoying listening, why not spread the word? From the latest innovations in batteries to involving more women in science, in our last 46 episodes, there'll be something there to tweak your curiosity. Perhaps you want to know what other EU-funded projects are doing to make the use of complementary proteins more scalable. The Cordis website will give you an insight into the results of projects funded by Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe that are working in this area. The website has articles and interviews that explore the results of research being conducted in a very broad range of domains and subjects, from pulses to pulsars. There's something there for you. Maybe you're involved in a project or would like to apply for funding. Take a look at what others are doing in your domain. So come and check out the research that's revealing what makes our world tick. We're always happy to hear from you. Drop us a line. editorial@cordis.europa.eu. Until next time.